Welcome to the Startup and Grow podcast. My name is Catherine Aragon.
And I'm Luke Tillman Young.
And together we talk about getting your business in gear and growing to a smooth running machine. Each week we talk about just some aspect of either a startup or growing your business. Sometimes it's both because they kind of go together. So what we're talking about today is how success takes action. Because, if you think about it, we are all so really good at talking about what we want. But the real differentiator is who's willing to take action.
Sure.
So, Luke, I think you have a story for us.
Yeah, it's funny. I was reading an article yesterday and I heard the phrase mental gymnastics, how we all want to, run all the experiments and run the business plans in our head. But when it actually comes time to do it, nobody actually shows up to actually do it.
That's a really good illustration.
Yeah.
I think that's so true.
Yeah, I think so too. And, we talk about just doing it, and obviously Nike has the corner on that phrase, but, what does that really mean, just doing it? And for me personally, a lot of times I get stuck in my head. I like to think I'm a very intellectual type guy where I run, different scenarios in my head and what ifs and possible business plans. And, I like to run things through. But when it actually comes time to do it, sometimes I just don't feel like doing it, or I'm just and really what it boils down to is fear of failure, fear of not succeeding. When you're an entrepreneur, you try a lot of things. And so after a while, the failure kind of gets to you. I think it's like 9, even for entrepreneurs, I think it's like 9 out of 10 of their startups still fail.
Easily. Yeah.
That's the way it works. And, you say that stat, but when you're actually in the middle of it, experiencing it, you kind of want to stop sharing things that you're trying with family because they're like, another one, Luke.
Right.
Another one. So, but, for me personally, it was overcoming the fear of failing and realizing that success actually comes out of failure. It's a pretty cliche thing to say, but it really is true. I've learned most of what I know from failing, but you're it's like a kid who is learning how to become a professional baseball player. They don't come out the womb like throwing 100-mile-per-hour curveballs. Like they start throwing at the ground pretty quickly, and then they finally can throw a little higher and throw a little higher, and by the time the scout comes around, they're ready to go pro. And the same analogy applies for business as well, because you are preparing yourself for that one idea, for that one startup, that you don't need to learn a new skill. You don't need to learn a new tactic. Everything that you've learned from all these other businesses are coming together in order to form this ultimate, machine that you have, this well-oiled machine that you've built over all these years. That you
I heard an interesting concept that kind of goes with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And this is the guy, Scott somebody, who created the Dilbert cartoon. And differentiates goals versus systems. And as I was reading it, I realized that's exactly the mindset that I adopt. And I think this fits really well with the concept of success and failure and just taking action. Is sometimes we start an activity for the purpose of reaching some goal in a way, but it's not really a goal because we're probably not making any money. It's not really leveraging into anything that anybody else would perceive as success.
Sure.
So he doesn't call it a goal. He calls it a system because the point is to use that task or activity to build assets for yourself. So for instance, right now I'm working with Ahrefs and I'm creating their training videos. Well, video has never been one of my strongest suits. I'm relatively new to video. And so part of this system for me is increasing my video skills, which I know I'm going to use down the road as I create more and more courses in this podcast, doing videos for my business. Video is everything right now. So how can I go ahead and take action instead of creating a goal, which is a head thing, if you think about it? The goal is the head talk. I want to get better at video. I go get a job or a client who wants me to make video, and I'm getting paid while I do it. So it's part of this bigger system.
So it sounds like you almost have to have the mentality that kind of whatever comes my way, I can take care of, and I can produce, I can learn it, I can be the best at it. and I can move forward with it. Because if you didn't have that mentality, you would have been like, oh no, video, I don't do video, not at all.
Right.
But
right.
you were already prepared in your mind because of your experience, because of the confidence of things that you've done already. You know, oh, it's just another platform, easy.
I'll figure it out.
Got it. You know, I'll spend a weekend figuring it out. Sure.
Right. And I did have a little bit of experience, but not enough to go out and say, oh, I'm an expert on video.
Sure.
Whereas now I feel like, you know, I'm ready to create a course on, hey, this is how I'm creating videos. Look how great it works. My eyes don't dance when I do it.
You literally can put another rung on your ladder to climb higher and higher, which is pretty awesome.
Right. But if I wasn't this just go do it, take action kind of person where, okay, what if I do fall on my face? Who cares if I fall on my face?
Sure.
I am after expanding my horizons. I'm after opening more doors in my future.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take action today on whatever I can take action on.
Sure.
So it's like one step at a time. I liked what you were saying. It's like you don't start out throwing the pro ball thing. You know, you start throwing the ball at the ground.
Right.
But that's your first step. So take it.
Right. I think a lot of times we have the idealistic version of what success looks like.
Yes.
And that is, you know, we look at like, the quintessential Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mike Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. These guys are like 0.0000001%
Right.
what success looks like. And that's not the reality for most people. I mean, it could be with enough work and hard effort, but nobody's going to come out the gate swinging. And even if you look at these guys, they have a history of failure behind them as well. And so once they reach that point where we put them on a pedestal, we're like, oh, wow, these guys are amazing. You know, we're honored to be in their presence. But if you look at their past, there's a history of failure, you know, a history of like just physical illness even. I mean, it's crazy when you take a look at these guys' past. You realize, wow, they failed often. They failed early, you know.
And they were okay with it. They didn't let failure change their self-perception.
Sure.
Like, I'm not a failure. This project failed.
Sure.
And I think that's a big part of it. Too many people are taking it personally when failure happens.
Right. And I think a lot of people don't, myself included, sometimes I get caught up in this failure defining who I am.
Right.
I think, okay, I'm afraid to get started because when I fail, or if I fail, when I fail, that's another mind game. If I fail, everybody's going to think I'm a failure and then I won't have any ground to stand on, when in reality, that's just the life of an entrepreneur.
I really think, and I think that's a good point, because we have to get in our head that it honestly doesn't matter what other people think.
Sure.
If we're doing it to impress somebody else, we're doing it wrong.
Sure.
I was thinking about this yesterday, of course, because I was reading this story. This is the new book by Tim Ferriss, Taking on Titans, something about Titans.
Right.
Fantastic book, definitely worth getting and reading.
Okay.
Like that thick though.
Wow.
So it's got tons of interviews that he's had with really big name people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're kind of getting inside their head and what they think. And it's like, wow, I found my people here.
Sure.
It's kind of fun. But as I was reading this and reading these stories about their own failures and the weird quirks they have, I started realizing, you know, too many times we do what we do to impress someone else or to prove something to someone else. And really and truly, we must be doing it. We need to be doing it because it's something we're passionate about and we love. It's like, I do what I do because it's who I am. And I really don't care what anyone else thinks. And I think that's a big part of it. That gives me the courage to move forward and to shrug off failure.
Sure.
Yeah, we all fail. We all do stupid things, but it doesn't have to define us at all.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I listened to Tim Ferriss's podcast, really awesome podcast. If you don't listen to it, I definitely recommend it. I think he interviewed Scott Adams on there, and that's why I said the Dilbert guy. And so that was cool as well.
That's what I think he took all those interviews and put them all into his book.
Gotcha.
So if you like the podcast, you'll love the book.
Okay, great. I'll definitely have to check it out then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the other thing that, we talk about just doing it. And what does that really even mean? I mean, we say, okay, go out there and just do it and get it done. Like we have all these great phrases that inspire us. And then, everybody,
motivational Monday.
Right, and the dust settles and it's the next day. You're like, okay, I want to get something done. I just don't know how.
I think that is the perfect question. because that's where everybody is. And especially when you're new, it's like, and I've been there, I'm pretty sure you've been there. It's like, I don't know even what to ask. When you're especially for startups, it's like, I see the vision. I know it's possible. I know I have what it takes to do it, but where do I even start?
Sure.
And so for me, I start with what I do know. And then I read everything I can get my hands on. I ask whatever question I do have, I pursue it. And that generally opens up new questions. So for instance, when I started my business, I had just quit my full-time job. I was ready to go freelance again. I sat at my desk and I thought, now what? What do I do? And what occurred to me, the stuff that I was in the marketing department. I wrote all their marketing materials. So it's like, why don't I just do what I did for them? And so for me, that worked out well. I am a writer, and I decided, okay, I wrote a website and I wrote a blog and a newsletter. So let me just do that. I'll start with what I know. And that worked really, really well, because by doing that for a year, I got discovered by Crazy Egg, which led to a really great gig with them, which has led to everything, all the open doors I have in front of me now.
Wow.
But it took with doing the one thing I knew to do at the moment. And I figured the rest will come to me, and I'll cross that when I need to. But I have this one task I can at least take care of.
Sure. I think a lot of times in terms of getting started for startups, when I first started building businesses, I would, I guess, start at the beginning. And for me, that was build the website, build the infrastructure, and then I'd have this finished product. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. How do I sell it?
Right.
And as I've gotten older and more experienced, I have kind of turned everything backwards, in the sense that if I have a great business idea, I'm like super excited to get started. Well, that's great. But you have to define a market first. And so for me, when somebody says, okay, let's, start this new business, and I'm excited and I'm ready to start programming or building or setting stuff up, the question for me is, okay, I think it was Kennedy was like, how do we get back from the moon first? So that's kind of my question, is how do we, what's the market and how are we going to attract the audience before we even build the program, before we even write a single line of code, before we even build our website? Like, what partnerships are we going to have? Where can I go and find my audience? Where can I go and interact with them so I know I can sell them a product? Because a lot of times we talk about just doing it, and people, we go out and we grind and we do it and we work really hard, but a lot of it is wasted effort, because a lot of times we end up building a product nobody wants. And so I've definitely spent months building something that nobody wanted. And I was like, Luke.
Yeah. Well, I think my story, let's go back to that. The reason that worked is because everybody needs a writer. Every business needs a writer. So it's like, I didn't quite know, all right, everyone says, oh, you have to niche. And I was like, I'm not going to niche for a little while. I'm going to stay kind of broad, because I don't know where the spaghetti's going to land. When I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall, what's going to hit? But I do think you're right. If you don't know who your target market is, if you don't know where they are online, and if you don't have a selling proposition, what is your value proposition? If you don't know those things, you're not ready to start yet.
Sure.
And so I think, you have to nail down the fundamentals.
Right.
And, whether it's I think building a website and starting a blog may not be where you need to start. It's just what worked for me.
Sure.
But like I'm working with a client right now who is making $100,000 a day.
Wow.
Kind of, I'm guessing. And he is only just now getting his blog started.
Sure.
So he focused the fundamental of creating something people really wanted, solving an immediate problem and selling it. He did that first. And I'm thinking, well, that's really the more important thing. Can you make money? And where will you make the money? Attract those clients and you're good.
Yeah, so I agree with you 100%. The easiest part for me is building the infrastructure, because it's work that you can see in front of you. The hardest part that should be done first is going out and actually finding your clients and finding people who will actually buy your product. Because if that doesn't exist, it's not going to magically exist after you build your product, and it'll save you a lot of time. So just doing it for me means kind of going fishing, before I build a fishing boat, just kind of putting a fishing reel in the pond to see if there's actually any fish in there before you go out and build, a fleet of fishing.
Great story. I like that one.
Yeah. So,
But another approach that I've heard more than once in the last 6 months is go out and talk to people.
sure.
If you actually talk to them, they will use the precise words that you need to hear to help you create a product they actually need.
Sure.
And so many times we like to sit in our little bat cave and come up with our own ideas. I want to create this. And if we would go talk to people, they might tell us what they need.
Yeah.
And then we could create something that actually has a market right off the bat because people are asking for it.
And they feel more invested in it when you do
Yes.
build it, because they feel as though somebody cares about you, somebody cares about them, somebody, you took their feedback and you integrate it into whatever offering that you provided, and so they feel like a certain part of ownership about the product that you built. And whenever somebody feels like they own something, they're proud of it and they want to share it with everybody else and show it off to all their friends who happen to be
That's
other
true.
clients as well. And so
Yeah.
you become more of a, even in terms of going out and trying to pitch them and sell them, you can say, here, look what I built for you. And now you become even like an advisor to them instead of just
Right.
a business transaction.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And the more invested people feel, the more excited they're going to be. And then we talked last week about trust,
Mhm.
and talk about building trust because you're the one who's listening to them. They feel like you're doing it for them.
Exactly.
And so yeah, they're going to stay with you.
Sure. I've built products in the past where I've had maybe 10 or so evangelists. And the reason why is because they emailed me and they had a problem. I said, well, how would you have me solve this problem in the software? And they said, well, I'd like you to add this button here and maybe do it so it doesn't quite, turn red or turn green this way. And maybe have this function operate in this certain, procedure. And I made those changes. And then just like that, they were like, okay, cool. This is awesome. And they shared it on their Facebook, shared it on YouTube, Reddit, all these other different mediums that they're connected to, because they're like, look what I helped build,
Oh,
And,
that's awesome.
and like up until this day, I can email these guys and say, hey, I need a blog post from you, or can you send me pictures of your product or whatever? And like, sure, anything for you, Luke, And so it's pretty cool to have that core group of people that get you
Right.
started. And it does a couple of things. One, it provides you a little bit of income when you get started. Two, it actually provides you with the confidence that you need to keep going because people like your product. And three, it gives you testimonials that you can use from people who are actually passionate about your product.
Mhm.
And so you're just adding selling machines, like gears to the selling
Yes.
machine. Which
Yeah. But it's kind of like the beginning is starting where you want to end up.
Exactly.
If you can't visualize that, then you're not going to get there anyway.
And of course, it changes along the way. And that's the beautiful thing about talking to people, like you said, because you go in with one idea, I'm going to provide my client with this. And they say, we don't need this. What we really need is this. And you're like, wow.
I never thought of that. Yeah.
Talk to somebody. That's amazing.
Imagine.
I know. So it's difficult because it comes down to fear, the fear of being rejected, the fear of sounding stupid, the fear of not knowing what you're talking about. And so a lot of times when we pull back the curtain of fear, there's nothing there. And that's what just do it means, is like pull back the curtain and nothing's there, just more opportunity. So.
Right. And take some step, any step that will create even more opportunity.
Exactly.
And it's just one step at a time. You'll get there. It's not that hard.
Exactly.
So cool. Now, we've talked about mentioning some product or new discovery or piece of news, anything that came up for us each week. And the tool that I wanted to share is called renderforest.com. And it is so cool. Oh, by the way, they don't know I'm doing this. I'm not getting paid for the mention. It's just that again, like we mentioned earlier, I'm working on video and I wanted to create an intro and an outro and did not want to have to learn some Adobe program to be able to do it.
Sure.
And so I went.
Adobe prices.
Exactly. So I was browsing around online, and this was the very best thing I found. And literally, you go in, they've got templates. You just play around with the templates, create something you like, and if you decide to keep it, it just costs $20.
$20 for a single video, or just unlimited, or how does it work?
You can create as many as you want.
Okay.
But it's $20 per download, or $8 a month if you pay for the whole year at once.
Oh wow, that's a pretty good deal.
It's a really good deal. So if you're gonna make a lot of intros and outros or little business videos, you can't resell them. but the price is really good.
Wow. And you can use them however you want, and for commercial use, that's fine. Wow.
Yeah, they look fantastic. So I did have to go and create an audio of Catherine Aragon Media to put over one of them. And I uploaded my logo. And so, with just a few little assets from you, you get something that looks like a professional made it for you.
Do they have a pretty deep library when it comes to templates?
Yes. Okay. So I was able to go through and you can pick whatever style music you want. So they have some little more retro, some soft, some rock sounding, some country, all kinds of styles. So whatever fits your personality and your business, you can put in your video.
Yeah, it looks like they have at least a couple hundred. Yeah, it's always my concern with templates is that I don't want to run into, it's like wearing the same thing at a party with somebody else. But like, I'm looking at their website now, it looks like they have a pretty deep bench of templates that are.
I think it's worth playing with.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, that's renderforest.com.
Wow. That's a great find.
Yes.
It's awesome. I'm going to have to try that out. I have a couple of projects I'm working on that could definitely use an intro. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And you don't have to pay for it unless you're satisfied with it?
Correct. So one of them, I made like 3 different edits of it. And then I finally decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and download it. And at that point, I paid for it.
Oh, wow. So you can get it to exactly where you want it to be.
Yes.
If you can't get it where you want it, you don't like it at all, you can just pop on.
Delete it. Yeah, or exit. So you will need to create a free account in order to make any of them.
Gotcha.
But you can play around with it all you want without having to buy anything.
Do they provide, you mentioned you can add music, do they provide like the sample music tracks and everything?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And there was in the FAQ a question of somebody got a copyright issue from the music, but they have a site in the FAQs, they tell you what to do about it. Go to this site and register basically so they know that you've got the right to use it.
Okay, cool.
So I haven't uploaded my video to YouTube yet, so I haven't run into that yet, but I'm prepared.
That's great.
So that's it for today.
I think so.
Anything else we need to mention?
Not really. Just do it.
Okay. I like that. Then thank you for listening. It's been a joy having you with us today.
Thank you very much.